Welcome to the Galacticast. My name is Kamala.
And this is Siri
of Yoga Galactica.
It's our mission to share as many healing modalities with you as possible,
so we can collectively grow, learn, heal, and be our optimal, upgraded selves. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this transmission. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Galacticast. This is episode 3, and my name is Kamala.
I am Siri.
And we are Yoga Galactica.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, today we are talking about plant medicine, how it has changed our lives, how it has changed so many people's lives, and it's actually a very wild time to be doing this right now as the Amazon is up in flames. And
yeah, that's really sad and intense.
It is really sad and intense, especially that it was set aflame by apparently the Brazilian government.
The government, the corporations, the loggers, the cattle ranchers. It's really depressing. But you know what we can do is try to hold in our hearts the vibration of love, or rather pray for rain.
Pray for rain, and also really watch what we're doing in our homes as far as recycling, as far as using less paper products, anything we can do to support the trees. And there actually are quite a few places that you can donate. There's a lot of references right now popping up where you can actually be of help. And maybe at the end of this podcast, we can add some of those into our episode.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Beautiful.
All right, you guys. Well, yeah, episode 3. This is all very much an organic journey. And, this podcast is not necessarily about us sitting here like spewing out facts and regurgitating information. And even though we'll probably do a little bit about that, but a lot of it is anecdotal about things that have shifted our lives. Yes. And our stories around it and the stories of our community. And potentially within that, there's little nuggets of wisdom that you guys can use and apply into your own life, because really hearing firsthand experiences are what help us all sort of grow and learn and
navigate our journeys. And I know that if I knew now if I knew in my 20s what I know now, I think my journey would have been much different. But, I remember the first thing that I ever tried, and that was psychedelic.
Yes.
Was good old LSD.
All right.
And I chose.
You want to tell us that story?
I do. Yeah. I chose the Eugene, the Lane County Fair, which was this fair that happens in Eugene, Oregon. And someone was like, "Ooh, you should try this. It's lots of fun. It'll make you laugh." And I was like, "Okay." And I think I was 19 or 20, maybe, I think something like that. And my friend and I decided to try this. And oh my gosh, the journey was a lot of fun, actually. I don't think I laughed so hard many times in my life. I laughed and laughed and laughed. I had a really good time. It was like such an overload of stimulation at the fair with the freaking Ferris wheels and so many people, also so many people that I knew. And it got to the point where I had to just get out of there. I carried this little stuffed animal with me through the whole time. It was something that someone won at the fair for me, and I remember it was a little white fluffy dog. And by the next, when I finally came off of this trip was like 13 hours later, this thing was just brown, and it looked like it had gone through it as much as I had.
The bear went on the acid trip too.
acid trips in my younger days were just that they were fun. They were definitely like sparkly. You know, I saw a lot of really wild, enhanced things. But it really, it wasn't super meaningful. It was definitely, back then, it was a drug to me. It
Very
was
recreational.
Very, very recreational. And, you know, not something I used all the time, but when I did, I knew that I had to clear a lot of space out. And
Well, that's good you knew that, at least.
I learned that.
You learned that, got it.
I learned that after just really not being able to communicate with people. When I took this substance, and it was, I didn't really learn that quickly though, because mushrooms were my second thing, and that was just straight up bizarre. Like, I still remember the pencil-headed, eraser-headed pencil people that were just, like, I can still see them today. Like, like mushrooms are trippy. I mean, they're such a bizarre, hallucinogenic. You know, you see things and people in a way that you just don't think is possible. And of course, when I tried mushrooms the first time, I decided to go out to a club in Eugene. And I remember being in there and just looking at people's faces, especially people with makeup, and just being like, oh my God, like, what is happening? So it was very, like I said, then it was much more of a recreational drug. It was bizarro world. It was hilarious. It was definitely fun and funny.
Did you have any, like, dark moments with these psychedelics?
I'll tell you, I really have had a good run with psychedelics.
Nice.
And I mean with every single one. I've definitely, there was a time at Fuente, you know, at Leyenda. Maybe I shouldn't say where we were. I don't know.
Mexico.
Doesn't matter. Somewhere in Mexico.
Yes.
That I had an intense journey. And I think that a lot of that was the people around me. And I was feeling that intensity. But I've really, I can say that I've never had a dark, like, one of those, because I have many friends that have had them, and it's been really shattering. It's been very hard for them, and actually has shifted them in more of a negative way.
Yeah.
I have had some beautiful experiences, and I always knew with every plant medicine and psychedelic, they're plant medicines to me now. They were definitely like recreational then, but I knew that I was still there, and no matter what, I would complete the journey and be fine. And I would always have these little ways, I don't know, maybe spirit was with me and would be able to kind of help pull me out. I remember even seeing like things kind of go to the dark side, and I would be able to anchor myself and be like, that's just a visual. I'm here. I'm fine. Everything's going to be okay. So, yeah. What about you? First experiences.
Well, I was a little late bloomer. Really, I remember one time in high school I tried LSD, and wild story, a bunch of friends and I went to a strip club in San Francisco.
Thought we chose.
And that's the wildest place that you could probably do LSD for your first time. And we're all underage, so we got in with fake IDs, and there's probably like 10 of us. And I remember it was on a sugar cube, and I remember eating the sugar cube, and the effects came on obviously when we were in there, and the stripper was like talking to me in my ear, and all I could see were like the lights circling. There's like a disco ball, and you know how they make like different patterns on the walls and ceiling. I was just like mesmerized by that. And it was that moment where I was like, okay, something's happening. I'm feeling very shifted right now.
Right.
But again, like, you know, when you're that young and you do something like that and you're not prepared or you don't have experience with it, you don't really understand what's happening, you know?
Yeah.
And for the rest of the journey, my friend, my stepbrother at the time, and my friend, we went back to Marin, and we were just driving through the woods. And that was wild. And I remember like he had this like rocket style car, it was a souped up Honda Civic, and we were just driving through the woods. And I just remember like like the lights, because he had like pulsing lights in his car, and I remember pulling down the rear view or the little flap mirror, and I was like looking at myself, and I was like, God, this is so weird and bizarre. And then I went home, and everyone was asleep, and I like crawled up the stairs. I was like, okay, and then I just went to bed, and like that was it. That was my first LSD experience, and actually my one and only LSD experience for almost like 15 plus years. Like I didn't really revisit that. However, my first significant psychedelic experience, aside from cannabis is considered a psychedelic now these days, was when I was in college, and me and my roommates and my good friends at the time, there were four of us, decided to go take mushrooms on the beach in Santa Barbara. And this was a very beautiful experience. Living in Isla Vista in Santa Barbara, we were like literally on the beach. So we ate the mushrooms in our apartment, then we rode our bikes to the beach, and then we just went and sat there sort of like waiting for it to come on. And I just remember like we were all sort of quiet and I guess meditative. So we really picked like the perfect set and setting, and that's something we'll talk about more throughout this podcast. But the set and setting was prime. Like it was just four of us. We're all there together. We're all on the same frequency. So it's not like one of us wasn't doing it or one of us was on something else. We're like all did the same mushrooms. We all were on the same dose. And I just remember like sitting there and looking down at the sand, and the sand just started like moving, and there were waves in the sand, and I was like, whoa. And then I looked up at the sky, and the sky, like the sun was maybe like an hour away from fully setting, but then it was so picturesque. I literally felt like I was in a painting. And I just remember seeing this plane going by and seeing the trail or, whatever's the jet stream behind the plane. And I was like, this is fucking amazing. And so we stayed out there for quite a while.
Yeah.
And it was just like wild. I don't even remember like if we talked or what we were doing. We're just out there, and yeah, there was giggly moments, and it was weird. And, sometimes you don't even have words when you're in an experience like that. And then I remember we were like, okay, the sun set, and we're ready to come back into town, and we're definitely through like the height of the journey. And as we're coming back into town, everything was amazing. It was like this calm peace and sense of peace and calm, and I just felt so much gratitude and joy, and I was like, this is unbelievable. Whoa, This is wild. So that was really like my first initiation into psychedelics. And from then on, mushrooms were definitely like my journey of choice. I want to hear more, but I'll tell one more story. So we did it a few more times throughout college, and then I lived by myself, and I went to a coworker's house one time to pick up some mushrooms. And I was getting it for my friends so we could all have a journey. And this was such a wild story, and it actually had a dark experience. And he weighed everything out. I got the mushrooms, and then he was like, he had this giant bag. He's like, well, I haven't even tried these myself. Do you want to try them? And I was like, sure, let's do it. It was a Sunday afternoon. We were probably watching like Sunday football, because that's what we did then. And he just starts he like takes some out, eats them, then hands me some. He eats some, hands me some. I have no idea how much I ate. And literally within 45 minutes, like everything in the room is like shifting and melting, and the shadows of the plants were moving. And I remember this one song, it was a Manu Chao song, and came on, and I was like in the song, and it was really wild. I ended up having like a little bit of a dark journey. I won't like go too deep into it, but it was like, what is happening? I like literally lost my whole sense of self. And it was so funny. The next morning I slept there because there was no way I could have driven or anything. And the next morning I woke up, and the depth of the journey was so profound, but almost in a dark kind of eye-opening way. I like sold the mushrooms that I got back to him. I was like, I don't even want these anymore. Like, if this is what is going to happen when I do these, I do not want them. So he's like, all right, cool. So I went over there to get mushrooms, ended up going on a powerful journey, and then I sold the mushrooms back to him. I was like, I'm good. I'm good.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
You know, one thing that just popped into my head actually, and I think one of the reasons that I continued my journey with psychedelics, I do remember always having these very profound moments where I, on mushroom and LSD trips, would figure out at one point in my journey how the world worked. Like I would have these aha moments where I was like, that's it. That's the key. And I would, everybody remember this. We'd be like, yeah, you know, but of course everybody was totally out of their mind. But I remember having these moments that I would figure everything out, and I would say to myself, I need to write all this down. I couldn't even, there's no way I could have written anything. But having those moments of like, wow, like Spirit has just shown me this straight up map of how the world works. Somehow I could never remember it. So that was interesting. And I actually, you know, you asked me if I have ever, I did have one dark moment. And that one dark moment was summer solstice, or was it winter solstice, when you and I went out to that Moroccan...
Yeah, that was 2012, December 21st, 2012, this very auspicious end of the Mayan calendar. Where
the whole world, with like all these things were going to happen. And a dear friend of ours and by the way, if you ever have a little vial and you go to, and you think that it's empty...
of acid, right?
Of LSD.
Yeah.
It's not. Once you add a few drops of water to it, you first of all, it's just, what is it, dehydrated or something?
Yeah, it evaporates.
So our dear friend, and I'm not going to mention any names, but our dear friend said, I have this beautiful little bottle. It's the best LSD ever, and I'm just gonna add a couple drops, and we're just gonna get a little sparkle, and it's gonna be just a light, just a sparkle. It's gonna be amazing. And he took this little he took that, and he added some sassafras to it and some Farinol to it.
Ooh, quite the cocktail.
And it was the cocktail. And there was, I think, 8 of us there, 10 of us there, but 8 of us, or 8 or 9 of us decided to journey. One very smart man decided not to. Let me tell you, we were in the most beautiful setting, these gorgeous Moroccan-inspired hotel rooms. Siri and I had our own suite. We all had our own little places, all decorated so beautifully.
Yeah, we were in Desert Hot Springs.
We were in Desert Hot Springs. Sorry, guys, if anybody hears us from Desert Hot Springs. And this was a hotel where basically everybody would leave that ran the place. So they basically left us in this place with a beautiful pool and a hot tub. And so our friend says, okay, I'm going to, who would like to try some? And I was like, I'll have a little sparkle, why not? Everybody was like, that sounds great. So he added some water to it, or added something to it to rehydrate it. Pours these 9 little tiny glasses, and we all go to sip. We all take it. And I just remember, I remember about 20 minutes in, I look over at my dear friend, and he's got his hands on his knees, and he's just like, and I was like, what's going on? You okay? And he was like, whoa, I don't know. I'm feeling a little bit more than a sparkle. And I looked over at my friend and I was like, that was just a sparkle, right? And right as I said that, I started feeling these tingles. And I am telling you, I haven't tripped that hard ever. I think that was your first proper LSD trip.
For sure.
That pristine place turned into Fear and Loathing at Las Vegas.
Yep. In
Las Vegas. It was the most bizarre things happened. We were freaking a bunch of crazy people gone wild. There were even other people staying at this place, and we were half of us were naked outside. I mean, it was bizarre. And I remember Siri had the moment first, and he was like, I don't know. And we grounded in. We had to take a while, sit outside, look at the stars. I was like, you're okay, babe. Everything's going to be okay. And I went back in the room to get something. And I mean, our room was trashed. And
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
just like, I sat in the bed, I was like, oh my God, what kind of people am I surrounding myself? What have I done? The cops are going to come, like, so they're going to come tomorrow. We're all going to be thrown in jail. I was like, we're never getting out of this. I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
I am with me. You remember, I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'm with me. I was like, oh my God, this is terrible.
Yeah.
Like, what have I done to my life? Like, this isn't me. I wasn't ready for this. And I went down the dark side. I did. I was like, it was terrifying. I did not think we were going to get out of there alive. And somehow something happened. I can't remember what it was. I think
Time.
time happened. I started coming back in. We ended up, like, it did turn out to be one of the most fun adventures ever,
Yeah.
and hilarious and straight up fucking crazy.
I remember from that journey being outside with like 5 or 6 of us, and it was the first time I had really strong visuals
Yes.
from an acid journey. And I felt like I was in an Alex Gray painting where
Yes.
he uses these like dimensions of light to connect each other to other people, and it all in this beautiful fractaling way. And I literally was seeing that. I was like, whoa. Oh, I see how we're all connected.
Yes.
It was really powerful. Yeah, and that one kept me up literally all night. I remember I maybe slept for like 45 minutes or an hour,
yeah.
and every time I'd go to like lay down and try to sleep, it was like the same loop, the same thought pattern. I literally could not get out of it. It wasn't a negative one, but it was just like I would freak out. I'd have anxiety, then I'd calm myself down, and I'd be like, all right, I'm coming back. And then boom, I would like freak out and have anxiety and then calm myself down. And that just kept repeating. And finally I just had to like go outside and watch the sunrise.
Yeah.
And I got like 45 minutes of sleep that night.
Yeah, we
really
were
wild.
not prepared for that. At least I know I wasn't. I was wanting a sparkle, and I got punched in the fucking face. Like, it was crazy. And that was pretty much for me I don't think that was the end of doing LSD for me until Siri talked me into microdosing, which I was like, you're crazy. I don't have
really
time for that.
have to talk you into
did.
it.
Oh yeah. Oh yes, you definitely
Okay.
did.
All right.
You kept when Siri told me that he was microdosing, I was like, you're crazy. Who has time for this? I can't believe you're doing this like on an everyday basis, because I was like, when you grow, when you have this picture of what LSD is and the power of it in one drop,
Yep.
it's very, my thought of microdosing was like, oh, you're doing a quarter, you're doing like, I had no understanding of what it was. And so of course I had to research what it was. And then Siri had to, like, I kind of had to be around him when he was doing it, unbeknownst to me. I did not know he was, and he I had no idea at all. When I did finally try that, I felt my brain fire up. I felt myself become very clear, very focused, very alive, very heart-centered. Like, it was a very different experience than what I was expecting, and it was sub-perceptual. It was no visuals, no, it was beautiful, and we definitely, had a few microdoses that were macro, and that was interesting, teaching yoga like that. But, trial and error.
Yeah.
And
that was all very interesting how that story kind of unfolded. And I had been hearing about microdosing for a long time, and or not a long time, it was like a couple years.
Yeah.
And this was back in like 2015 when there really wasn't a lot of information. There were like, say, a handful of articles. Now it's like everywhere. You can read about it in Silicon Valley, and every entrepreneur is microdosing, and billionaires are even doing it. It piqued my curiosity because I was really just so curious, to rewind a little bit. Mushrooms, after I graduated college and I moved home, I had a friend who was making mushroom chocolates. And so I had access to these mushroom chocolates. And there was about a 1.5 year period of my time where I would eat the chocolates, go like walk into the wilderness behind my mom's house. And it was like on this beautiful elevated peak. And I would just like go trip out by myself. And I always had music and I was always like in a meditative place. And that's when I really connected with sort of like the meditative, spiritual, divine, mystical aspect of psychedelics. And it was mushrooms. So, you know, I was very grateful for mushrooms. I heard music differently. I saw patterns in the city, like this giant grid. I had these amazing experiences. And then I kind of like let it go. I was like over it. I was just, it wasn't in my life anymore. I moved to LA. After like a 1.5 years of living in LA, we met.
Yeah.
And this was at a time where I wasn't doing anything. I was like
totally sober.
Yeah, maybe using a little cannabis here and there, maybe having a little wine here and there, but I was pretty steeped in Kundalini yoga at the time, so I was pretty sober, pretty clear. But I remember you taking us to Fuente. It was me, Teddy, Jarrett, and obviously some other friends. Mike and Hannah were even there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
And we, one day, very smart of us, not even realizing how good of a choice this was, we decided to go take a mushroom hike.
Yes.
And I think we made this tea and we all drank the tea and then we
set intentions first.
Yeah.
We set intentions and then we went on a hike.
Yeah.
Together, the three of us. And that was like...
It was more than 3 of us.
Well, the 4 of us branched off. Me, you, Teddy, and Jarrett. Because that is when I really felt such a deep love and connection. And the Bear Clan was formed.
That was the birth of the Bear Clan.
The birth of the Bear Clan. And it was wild because we were all in this journey together. But each one of us were so individual on this journey. And I remember looking at each person going, I know these people are going to be in my life for a long time. I don't know in what capacity, because you and I had just started dating. I just met Teddy. I just met Jarrett. And but I felt this such deep soul connection to all of you. And I saw each of you in your individuality, and it was so beautiful. And that was the beginning of the Bear Clan. But that was a hike.
No, that was an amazing journey. One that I'll stick with me forever. That whole actual festival was really transformational.
I knew it would be.
Yeah, that journey alone, that mushroom hike, just like blew me wide open to the possibilities of what psychedelics can do. Because, you know, set and setting is so important. It's like one thing if you're at a carnival and there's hundreds, maybe even thousands of people all on different vibrations and different, you know, music. You're so open when you're in these psychedelic states.
Yes.
Like your senses are all extremely heightened that any wrong vibration, like you can feel energy and vibrations,
yes,
but any wrong one can like turn your trip in a direction that you were not expecting. So being outdoors and in nature and in the canyon with like 4 of us really good friends, again, all on that same vibration.
Yeah.
We just it was like divine. We like saw into each other's souls. It was so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it was the next day that we did the wacky pool party that they're famous for, where we still had a little mushroom tea left over. So I know we all drank a little bit of that. And then you pulled out the ecstasy.
Hey.
And I was like, I hadn't done ecstasy since my 21st birthday. And I really had only done it like a handful of times with pretty good results. I remember it being fun, but I also remember getting this like depression or down or sadness like post, you know, like the next day.
Yeah.
And so I was very tentative when you pulled out the ecstasy.
I was too. I mean, because so just for people who are watching, I went to rehab in 2008, and I had been completely sober for about a year and 4 months, and I just want to talk about this really quickly before we go on to that, because it's gonna it reshaped my whole connection to any type of substance. So I went into rehab for alcohol. I'm an alcoholic living my best life. I've been sober for over going into my 12th year. And this person that I met told me that I should sit, out of the blue, said that I should sit with 5-MeO-DMT. I had no idea what it was at all. I did not even do a search on Google. All I said was, is this something that is addictive? Is this something that is gonna, like, I'm done with being addicted to anything. I don't want to have anything in my body that is gonna make me want more of it or crave it. And this man was like, no, actually the man who's serving has been serving for years, and he was 12 years sober from alcohol at the time. So I met the facilitator / shaman. He was this like amazing human being, bright blue eyes, looked me right in the eyes, and I said, I've been sober, like I really I love my sobriety. I want to make sure that I'm not stepping over a line here. And he was like, I've been sober for 12 years. He's like, I think this is going to change your life. He said, this is not something that you can get addicted to. And he said, actually, I think you should actually go first. Smart man. And so I sat with 6 people in a room. It was the most profound experience, one of the most profound experiences of my entire life. 5-MeO-DMT. You put this crystal in this pipe, and basically the bottom of the pipe is burned. It almost looks like a bong, like a canister.
They call it a lamp.
A lamp. I didn't know what it was called. And the chamber fills up, and I held it to my mouth, and he looked at me and he said, with all love and trust, may you journey well. He said, and I inhale. We set our intentions. I didn't have any intentions. I just said, I asked that spirit shows me what I need to see. I inhaled this thing, and my gosh, I exhaled, and like full on into a whole different dimension. And it's so unexplainable, but every single thing was connected. We are all connected. It showed me the connection to everything in life, all things in life, myself, my family, my journey, and what it was, and how substantial it was, and how it has made me into this amazing human that I am today. And how I had like really wrapped up so many different things in my life and actually faced them head on and looked them in the eye. And so I didn't have any dark journey at all. I actually sat there, and they call it I think the smiling Buddha. I sat there with this smile, totally still, and even some giggles. I was out for 14 minutes in this with this medicine. It felt like I could have been there for years. And it showed me that everything happens for a reason. If an opportunity comes to you, it's come to you to present itself to you, and it is your choice whether you want that or not. If you want it, then it is there for you. All you have to do is say yes. And it just blew my freaking mind. And so I started to come back, and all I felt was gratitude, tears streaming down my face. And I called everybody in for a group hug. I only knew one of these people, and I came back with so much love and so much gratitude for life. It was the connection of all. It is called the God molecule, and I felt the most deep connection to spirit I've ever felt in my life, besides sitting with ayahuasca, which we'll talk about soon. And at that point, I realized that that plant medicines were very different than drugs, and that also that things used in moderation. Mind you, I don't feel strong enough to touch alcohol again. That one is my kryptonite, and I have no desire to use it. But it really did show me in a sense that I was okay to try things as long as I knew that my soul would not be pulled into them, and to never be complacent, to really watch myself, So anyway, going forward from that point, right after I sat with 5-MeO-DMT, I actually met Siri, and he'd never sat with that. I didn't do anything else. And then I met Siri. He and I at one point decided to try we did try cannabis again. And that one was a tricky one. I actually did use cannabis for quite a while. I don't use it now. If I do, it is a microdose, and it's like maybe once a month. It's so rare. My relationship has totally changed. But so fast forwarding to Fuente, when we did the mushrooms, it was a whole different experience to me than any other way that I'd ever done it before. It was a very beautiful, like connective, intentional ceremony with the mushrooms. And then we decided to try ecstasy. And that was fun.
Mm-hmm. It was life-changing for me.
It was life-changing.
Yeah.
Was that your first time?
No.
Oh, okay.
I had done it only a handful of other times. And the mix of the ecstasy with some of the mushrooms and the vibration, we were all, remember, like, we were like dressed up in tutus and wigs, and we were
looked hot.
Yeah, I was like a tutu cowboy. It was so wild. And my heart was blasted so wide open from the ecstasy, the MDMA that was in there. It left a really profound shift on me, and I really saw the possibilities with that, to like do healing and to really come into a place of love. So that was very profound.
Wasn't that
me.
when you were singing? Like you found your voice?
Yes.
Because unfortunately, I do have to share this. MDMA, ecstasy, it wasn't one that worked with me. And I get migraines when I take it. So unfortunately, and I did have fun with ecstasy in my past, so I didn't miss out. But it is not something, I got a headache. I had to leave. I actually left.
Oh, I remember
I
that.
went back to the tent, and Siri went out on his own in this community, which was really like so many of my dearest friends that really had known me for a long time. And so you and Teddy and Jarrett, and actually you even on your own, went out.
Well, we all just
exploring.
kind of stayed at the pool party.
Yeah.
And, it was the sun was going down, but it was still light out. And, things were wiggly. Like, everyone was wiggling. Like, it's known that people, like, drop acid and all their drugs on that day. But again, I think it was like echoing the experience we had the day before with the mushrooms in the canyon. I was like already in a very kind of like deep place. It was bringing me into this sense of like divinity within my body. And then the ecstasy like opened me up in my heart. So I was feeling all this love. And I just remember at one point, I was like on this rock.
Yes, there's a photo of that.
Yeah, I was on this rock like in a squat position, and I felt like an eagle or an animal, and this energy was embodying me. And I just remember, there's a DJ playing, and I remember like just sound was coming out of my mouth, and it was being channeled through song, like I was singing, no words, but it was, I don't know, it was really wild. I was having this moment, and I was like, my eyes were closed, and I was all in this moment by myself, even though there were people around. And then all of a sudden, a few like really good friends, I even think, I won't mention people's names, I don't want to incriminate anyone, but a few like close friends that I didn't really know, but they were Kamala's friends, like came, and we all were just like singing together. And it was a very like remarkable moment. And I just, it was interesting because after that all happened, I was riding this wave of like gratitude when we were done with the festival and back. But that was my first festival, Fuente in Mexico. And then that year we went to like every single other festival, from LIB to Fire Drums to Bhakti Fest to Burning Man. My first burn, this was 2010. And interestingly enough, I was always trying to recreate the experience that I had at Fuente. Mm-hmm. And if you're ever going into using psychedelics or, you know, plant medicine or whatever it is, with an expectation that you're going to have a similar experience to one that you had before, you're usually going to be let down.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember that. I remember being at LIB and we were having the best time. We had a camp, we did a show, we were airbrushing, and it was a lot of fun. But I remember I was like chasing an experience. I was like trying to recreate what happened, and it never worked. And I felt left kind of like with a hole, meaning I was unsatisfied. I was like, well, I know what the potential of this is. Why didn't it happen in this situation? And probably because it was my expectations. But probably because the container was different. We're with different people. And, you know, so all of this plays a factor in the outcome of the experience that you're going to have. And, you know, one thing, if we could stress it enough, and this is something that psychedelic advocates have been talking about, you know, as long as it's been used, is set and setting is so important.
So important.
And that means like your mindset, like where you are physically, like, you know, you don't necessarily want to go and do a journey if you're feeling a lot of anxiety, if you're going through a heartbreak, if you're stressed out about something. And then
if you're angry, if you're,
and then the
if
setting.
you have expectations.
Exactly. And the setting is equally as important. You know, like being at a concert can be really awesome, but it can also be really disorienting. So, you know, making sure you're with people that are in a similar vibe. Outdoors and nature is like, you can't go wrong with that. Unless you're like being attacked by a bear, but hopefully that's not going to happen. But nature in and of itself, even without psychedelics, is a great teacher. You know, nature teaches.
One of my greatest teachers. And yours.
And so, you know, this set and setting is ideal. You know, now what's amazing is so many of these, because of we're discovering the therapeutic aspect of these, a lot of, you know, even mushrooms, ayahuasca, LSD are all being used in a ceremonial setting, and people are having some of the most deep and profound shifts. And I think when a container is held, and of course with people that are serving and holding the container with integrity, it can be a life-changing transformational experience.
And that was one of the things that Siri and I noticed, was that we did not like doing those like psychedelics in a party environment, because it didn't feel like what the journey that we were looking for, and we kind of strayed from doing that and stepped away from it for a while.
Or if we did it in very small amounts. But I agree with you. I remember at one point we were like, the potency of, like, say mushrooms and LSD specifically can take you to such a deep place that if you're not in a good setting, it can not be the best journey. And so we really
need to be very careful about that. These are powerful substances. And you can end up in really wild predicaments if you choose to ingest, especially if you don't know where they're coming from, how strong they are. And you choose to even, you know, I'll take a sip of this mushroom tea, and all of a sudden you're off in La La Land, you know, like you really have to be very careful with these powerful plant medicines. And I feel like we have such a deep reverence for them now. Our whole experience has really changed a lot. And let's fast forward to the first time we sat with Aya.
Yeah, because that was like a real big game changer. You had, ever since I met you in 2010, you had an intimate circle of friends that were working with ayahuasca. And to me, at this time in 2010, it was still very fringe. Like, you didn't hear about it a lot. The circles were small. There was barely any media about it. And I remember just hearing little bits and pieces of, like, people doing ayahuasca, sitting in a circle, having a ceremony, and all this was very new. I've never had a psychedelic ceremony up to this point. And something intrigued me, and the way people would describe it, they're like, well, you know, like when you're on mushrooms or something like this, it's like you can really stay in the space and navigate in that space for a long time. But none of it actually ever quite made sense. And it really was 6 years into our relationship in 2016 when Aya really called me. And that's another thing about working with these plants. And we call them plants, even though, LSD is a synthetic, but it's actually derived from a fungus as well, ergot. You have to feel the calling, because if you are just reading about it or hearing somebody else's experience and you're like, well, I want to do that, but you're not actually like in tune or actually feeling the call to work with that, it probably means you're not ready or it's not the right time. And listening to that voice is so important.
Yeah.
So I was at a place in 2016. Our relationship was a little rocky and challenging. Yeah. My relationship with my parents was rocky and challenging. My work, I didn't really have like a great stable job, so everything seemed cloudy and gray, and I had a lot of friends that had done Landmark for them, and they were like, if you ever had a friend that's done Landmark, they've tried to get you to go to Landmark, and I'm telling you, all of our friends have done Landmark, and they've all tried to get us to go to Landmark, and bless it, it's there for the people that need it. I never felt called to go to Landmark, to be honest, even after at least a dozen of our good friends, if not more, would call us up. And from Landmark, they'd be like, oh, do you want to come to my graduation? And sorry if we're offending any Landmarkies.
We're not trying to offend. It's just not something that we were called to do. Everyone has to follow their path, and it has really changed. To give Landmark some love, there's some people in our lives that have really... I've seen some powerful changes happen. Yeah, and
we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
So anyways, I was at a point in my life where I felt like I was stuck between a rock and a hard place. Friends were telling me, oh, well, Landmark can really help. And then more and more, like really close friends were telling me that they were sitting in ayahuasca ceremonies and having these like deep cathartic experiences where I thought an ayahuasca was just about like tripping out and seeing visuals. Like that was my understanding of it, like kind of like LSD or mushrooms. I had no idea the actual like cathartic healing benefits of it, and now they're discovering that even more. But when my friends were telling me, I went and it was very healing for my body, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, like this light came on in my head, and I was like, oh, I really want to do that. So I was literally at this point where I was like, I'm either going to do Landmark or I'm going to sit with ayahuasca.
Yeah,
and I had a friend that was like, well, you need to sit with this group.
Yeah.
They're musical. You already know some of them. It's such a beautiful ceremony. And that was it. The connection was made. I reached out to the facilitator. We made the connection, and I booked it for the next month.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I told you I booked it.
You did tell me, and I had so much fear around ayahuasca. Like I'd seen a lot of my friends do it, or I had heard of a lot of my friends doing it. I knew that it was going to be one of the most powerful experiences in my life if I did it, but I had a lot of fear and resistance to doing something that would put me in a place where I had no control, especially after sitting with 5-MeO-DMT, and I knew that 5-MeO-DMT is in ayahuasca.
No,
NN-DMT is in ayahuasca.
Some brews have a little...
I knew that it was going to be... I did not know anything, but I thought... that it would be similar to what happened to me when I sat with 5-MeO-DMT, which I'm still processing to this day. It was that powerful. So I had a lot of resistance. I had a lot of fear. And so I said, I'm not going to sit with ayahuasca until she calls me. If you say that out loud, just know that you could possibly get the call. And so Siri booked his journey, and I was like, okay. I actually had a lot of resistance to him going as well.
Yes, I remember that.
And so I think it was about a week before your journey, because you made the decision.
Yeah, I made the commitment. I either paid and I was feeling called so deeply to do it that whether there was resistance from you or not, I needed a shift in my life.
Yeah, for sure. And also you were reading the Spirit Molecule.
No, it
the
was
Serpent.
like Cosmic Serpent.
Cosmic Serpent.
Yeah.
He was reading all these different books, and I thought, well, gosh, I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna read some of the books that he's reading.
Yeah.
And I remember it was definitely a tough time, but I was so anyway, Siri was outside doing something. He was really getting excited about going to sit with ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And I was in the kitchen this one day making soup, and I was feeling in so much gratitude because I had all these beautiful organic vegetables, and I was cooking it out of the Crossroads cookbook, which is one of our favorite restaurants in the world. And I was like feeling just so much gratitude and abundance and thankfulness for all that we have. And I started chopping onions. My eyes started watering. I opened the window in our kitchen, and I am not fucking kidding you. I hear this voice, which is not an outside voice. It's like within me, and she says, it's time. And I just like,
so it was a female voice?
It was a female voice. I looked around. I was like, what? And I held onto the counter. I said, you've got to be kidding me. An actual voice is calling me. She said, yeah, it's time. And it was the most soothing, direct message. And I was like, whoa, okay. And so I could have internalized that and not said anything, but I decided to immediately go outside to Siri and our friends who were outside. And I said, you're not going to believe this. Like, ayahuasca just called me. And Siri was like, oh, my God. This is so exciting.
You're do you want to come?
Yeah, do you want to come with me? And I was like, no, I want you to go. I want you to go and have this experience on your own. And I want to do the next ceremony, So Siri.
I didn't even know if you said that. I just think you said.
I said I want to do the next. Not with you.
Oh, yeah,
I was planning on going.
Confusing. Okay.
Yeah, I was planning on going on my own.
Yeah.
But now you take. So then Siri went.
Yeah, this was in April of 2016, and it was after having many different like mushroom and a few different LSD experiences. I still wasn't that versed with LSD. Definitely cannabis. I was just so ready for a shift in my life. And once I made the commitment and the decision to go, I was, like Kamala said, just doing like all this research, reading about it, like trying to just consume information. And, that's sometimes a good thing, but sometimes not a good thing, because you can hear other people's stories and it can like carve out weird expectations, or you think something's going to happen,
or
like
scare the crap out of you.
Yeah, like people say they've like shit their pants on ayahuasca, or there's like violent purging, and
there definitely can be that.
Yeah, and all of these can happen, but you don't, until you actually do it and feel it for yourself, you have no idea what's actually going to happen.
And if you have proper guardians with you and the facilitator knows about how to work with this plant, you really have a much less chance of those things happening. Like, guardians are going to help you to the bathroom, like you can actually talk to this plant and say, I've seen too much, and she will slow down. But anyway, back to you. So yeah, be careful about what you read and watch, because it can throw you into some spins of like, what am I getting myself into,
Oftentimes, exactly, like articles or videos can seem much scarier than it actually is, and especially with Kambo medicine too, and we'll talk about Kambo. However, so I was preparing myself to have a like full, complete ego death. And I was in such a, like I was saying already, like an emotional space, and I didn't know what I was doing in my life. I was literally like going there to die. I was like prepared for that. And that, I remember driving out there, it was in Malibu, and I remember I was just playing mantras like Sonatam Car, and I was singing, and I was just crying, like bawling my face before I even got there. So it actually was already very cathartic, and maybe you guys can relate to this, but sometimes when you make the commitment to do a journey like that, the medicine already starts working.
Begins.
Yeah, the journey begins. And so I guess I was already like preparing myself, my body, my spirit for this experience. Now, once I got there, I like got myself under control. I definitely arrived early so I could just be there on the land and get my space and set it up. And I had nerves, but I felt good. I knew a couple of the musicians that were there, so I felt like a little more comforted. I knew I was actually there. I think another good friend of mine was doing it. And so I felt okay. And my first, it was really interesting. I had actually, to rewind a little bit, NN-DMT is one of the active ingredients in ayahuasca, aside from many other things, including a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, which allows your body to orally, when you drink it, it allows your body not to just digest it and process it so fast you don't have an experience. But it's this beautiful brew of 2 different plants, and the traditional brew is 2, but they have all these other admixtures. And there's also more things than just the DMT and the MAOI. There's like harmaline and many other alkaloids in it that create the experience. But I had actually smoked NN-DMT, I think once or twice before this experience. So I had a little experience of the realm of DMT. However, for some reason, I kind of forgot that DMT is one of the active ingredients in ayahuasca. So I'm in this, we do the ceremony, we start it off, we open it up, I drink the cup. I was like, oh, that doesn't taste that bad at all. I'm like fully allowing myself, if I need to purge, I'll purge, whatever. I like fasted really well. I did like a really good dieta for myself. I think I was actually vegetarian at the time, so that wasn't even that hard.
Yeah.
And I just remember about like, maybe it was like 30 to 45 minutes. They do it in the evening time, and which is good because Aya is like really good for a dark space. But I also remember being just very like tired, and it was hard for me to like sit up.
Right, yeah.
And so about 45 minutes into it, because they ask you to like sit up and keep the energy vertical, because sometimes if you lay down, you can actually fall asleep. But laying down is not the worst thing as well. Sometimes you just need to lay down. And so I remember getting in this reclined position, like nothing was happening at this moment. I get in this reclined position and drumming started. And I just remember feeling these entities come over my body, and they're doing this scan. It's wild. I'm like just seeing it again now. And they're doing this scan, and they're kind of like alien. It was like a mothership of aliens, but it was organic and robotic all at the same time. And they're doing this scan. And they're asking like, can we they didn't say, can we enter? They were looking for a place to enter my body, but I could feel that. And immediately they came to my heart, and that's where they entered. And the drumming was going on. And I just remember it was like legs of a spider, but tentacles just pumping with the sound of the drum. And then they like went into my body. And as soon as that happened, I like blasted off into DMT land. And if you're familiar with what that is like, it can be
amazing psychedelics.
Yeah, kaleidoscopic entities, sacred geometry, fractals, universal languages, coding of the universe. It shows up for everyone differently, but then there's all these same themes that go on throughout it. And I just remember, and all of a sudden I was like, oh yeah, that's what it's DMT. And I had this kind of like giggle realization, and I just like surrendered into it. And that was like the first cup. And I was just like, oh, this is awesome. Zero feeling of being sick, nothing, no nausea, strong visuals. And then the second cup was way different. This is where I felt the deep connection to the ancestors and the people that have been cultivating this for thousands of years. And even though there's no like recorded history of it being used for thousands of years, I felt that. Like I felt the ancestral lineage of it. And I was just so in a state of awe and gratitude that this had been discovered and for the people. And I literally was still in like another dimension, but everything slowed down. It wasn't like so busy and chaotic. It slowed down, and I just felt the presence of the ancestors, and I was so grateful. And then just to touch on the music, the music will literally drive any sort of psychedelic ceremony, whether it's Aya or mushrooms or LSD. But the music that was curated for this specific experience was so unbelievable. I remember many times just having tears in my eyes from the depth and sincerity of the singers and their voices and the words. And they weren't even singing in English. Some songs were, but some were in Spanish, and I would only know like one or two words, or it was spirit music, spirit song. And it was so profound, and one of the biggest takeaways from that, aside from just feeling unbelievable and amazing, was my reconnection back to music.
Yeah.
Because for many years I was like a singer-songwriter, and I was really pursuing that as like my passion in life. But I went through this.
I mean, you put an album out.
Yeah, I put a couple. I put an EP and an album out, but I went through that album experience, and I was broken. I literally worked with this producer that was just so much more experienced than me, and he was a jaded producer, and I was a fresh young green artist, and it was that very typical like producer kind of beats the art at like, I don't know exactly. It was,
he had his ideas about your music, and instead of letting you have a powerful voice, he wanted to shape you into what he wanted.
Bam.
So you weren't singing from your soul, which is exactly what you do now.
Yeah, and so that experience, I actually ended that album right when I met Kamala.
Yeah.
And it took me 6 years. I like barely picked up a guitar. I barely sang in that time. But it was after this first Aya ceremony that I did that I was cracked wide open. I remembered why I made music. And I was like, oh, this is what music is for. It's not for becoming famous. It's not for selling a hit record. I mean, yeah, that can be a side part of it. But if that's your primary goal, I personally feel you're making music for the wrong reason, or you just haven't really connected to the true source of what music can do for people. And I was changed. It changed me. It opened me up. And I remember like coming home, playing the guitar, learning medicine songs. And it was different. It was different. Now, let's fast forward to the next month where you sat in your first Aya ceremony.
So, yeah, and actually, just to recap also, so Siri went to sit. I stayed home, and I am, like Siri was saying earlier, when you make that commitment, it already starts working. So while Siri is sitting in ceremony, I am telling you, and I'm not even joking you, the things I was feeling in my body and seeing were insane. I saw serpents. I saw all these things. I remember reaching out to someone who had sat with many people who had sat with I, and I was like, is there any possible way that I could be feeling this through my partner? Like, what is going on? And it was just like, oh my God, it was bizarre. The whole next month, I kept seeing like these all these roots spiraling around each other, like the ayahuasca root. Or is that what it's called?
Vine.
The vine.
Yeah.
Sorry, vines. The swirl was everywhere. I would look in trees. I would see fractals in sacred geometry. But I had a lot of fear. Like I had so much fear surrounding this. And I had a lot of fear that I was going to be somehow punished, or like that ayahuasca was going to, that somehow I wasn't doing what I needed to be doing, and ayahuasca was gonna be like this, I don't know, like this punishment. And I was also very nervous that ayahuasca would tell me that that you weren't who I was supposed to be with. And I remember when you went, I had that fear too.
Yeah, because we had a story.
I know
friends.
Quite a few of friends who have sat with ayahuasca and ended their relationships because they realized they weren't with the right person. And I was like, I had a lot of fear about that because I knew that our relationship was in a tough spot, but I was like, I really love this man, and so what is the plan? What are the plants going to tell us? Yeah. So fast forward to when we're sitting, and that was on, I believe, June 16th in 2016. And so we're getting ready, and I remember I held Siri's hands. I said, listen, like, I know we're going to do this together, but I really need this to be my experience for me. If anything happens to me, don't step in, like, I'll be okay, and we had our crystals, and Siri is amazing with, like, getting things together for us wherever we go. So he had packed, like, everything from tea to, I mean, he had so much stuff packed for us, but I had my crystals and I had water and I had a notebook. Yeah, because I'm just remembering that actually right at that time also, my aunt had just found out that she had cancer. And I was like, I want to ask this plant what to do. So I had this notebook and I had questions, and that was one of the things that I was going through that was really challenging in my life, along with losing my company at that time. Like, there were so many huge shifts in my life, and I was also feeling very like, what am I doing? What is going on? Like, is this what is my path? And, you know, what to do? So ayahuasca had called me, but the only thing that I really wanted to know was what I wrote down was like, is there any guidance that I can give my aunt? But other than that, I was like, why did she call me? Like, what does that even mean? Is there something she wants to tell me? So I didn't have a solid intention. You know, I remember, you know, like my intention was just love. But funny, when we went around and said our intentions, I said something completely else. And then I remember going back and just saying, my intention is love. And that's it. And when I went into the circle and I saw the facilitator, I had, you know, my ego jumped in and I was like, here's this guy on a gold cell phone, you know, on his phone. And I was like, what have I gotten myself into? Like, should I be sitting in the jungle? Like, what is going on? And I was on autopilot. Oh, yes. I mean, what a soul brother. But I like had my ego jumped in, fear jumped in. Everything was just like crushing down on me. I was on straight up autopilot. So we state our intentions. We sit in our places. It's time for the first cup. I, of course, get up right away to go. I think we were in that place in the circle. Didn't we?
It goes in a circle.
Yeah. So I believe we were some of the, maybe not. Anyway, I remember walking up to get the cup, and I was just like expecting this thing to taste like the worst thing ever. To me, I liked the taste of it. It was like molasses and this very distinct perfume that was so familiar to me, but I can't ever place it. And I looked at the cup. I was shaking, you know, and I drank it. I went and sat down. Within 5 minutes, I started feeling something. I had my obsidian in my hand. My legs I was sitting in easy pose, and I started rocking. And as I started rocking, and I'm telling you, and this came on for me so fast. I'm very sensitive. I started seeing thousands and thousands of people, generations, ancestors, like sitting in circle, all wearing white, all healing together. And I just remember feeling such gratitude because it was like, it's your turn, Kamala. All the fear left. And I was like starting to feel just so much gratitude, and I was like, and I felt so safe. And all of a sudden, as I'm sitting there and I'm holding my obsidian and I'm moving, and mind you, I moved through the whole damn journey. People couldn't believe it. And not a lot. I just was rocking, like the energy was just moving. And again, and all of a sudden, this voice again says, "May I enter your body?" And I was like, "What is happening? I already drank it. Like, you're in my body." And so I said, not out loud, but I said, "Yes." You know. And she said, "All right, well, I'm going to come in and I'm going to shift your DNA." And I was like, "Okay." And she said, "It may be uncomfortable at times." And I was like, "Okay." And then she said, "Do not be afraid." I said, "Okay." And the feeling of this medicine, this plant entering my body, I've never felt before in my life. There was not one part of my body that was not fully penetrated by this medicine. It was so visceral. It was so real. It was so powerful. And I was just like, whew. So she enters my body fully and then started to show me visuals, so many different things. But, you know, she had a very profound message for me that was like, here's the other thing. Ayahuasca's she's funny. She's a jokester. She's a powerhouse. She's a warrior. She's like everything and all. She is the divine. And so the message was it was lighthearted. It was fun. I don't know if I want to share it right now. It was personal. But when she told me this, it was said in a way that you would say something to a child with all love. And I remember her saying this to me. And at first I was like, okay, I can do that. But then I just started to cry, and I was like, I'm supposed to be this all the time? And she said, yes. I said, oh my gosh, I have so much work to do. And she said, yes, you know? And I just like, tears were just flowing. And I was just like, okay, it's time for Kamala to rise up and be the woman that I saw I knew that was there, but was so scared to merge with.
Yeah.
And it was so beautiful. And then, it started kind of wearing off, because you are present the whole time through this. At least I was.
Yeah,
I'm not going to speak for everybody.
Yeah.
I was present. I was hearing things. The music, when when the music came on is when all this started happening. The music drives it. It guides it. It moves it through your body. And it was so beautiful. It was like angels were singing. The music alone, I would have paid any amount of money to see. It was just like, oh my God, I'm so grateful. But then I went to go take my second cup because I was like, okay, the shaman says the first cup opens the gates, and then the second cup floats the boat or something. The third cup drives it home. And I was like, got it, second cup, got to go get my second cup. Go get the cup. So I go get the cup. I drink the cup. I drink the cup and go sit down. I'm sitting and waiting, And she says, oh, you drank again. Why did you do that? And I said, well, and I was like, okay, well, I drink the cup because the shaman, the facilitator said to drink the cup. Like, this is what you do. And she said, oh, you're working with a facilitator. Because I don't, this is a medicine that is so powerful and profound that it works. It's jungle magic. It has its own way of communicating. It doesn't know that you're sitting with a shaman. Now, for all they know, you're sitting in the middle of the forest with a freaking jaguar. I don't know, So she was like, you drank again. And I was like, yeah, I drank again. She's like, well, I'm in you. I'm in every cell of you. I entered your body. I gave you the message. And she said, so what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know, visuals. So boom, Alex Gray world. I've never seen anything like that before, but I went into the full-on Alex Gray world. Of course, I did go and drink the third cup because that's what I was guided. That's what I was really battling between. Is this really happening? Is this profound experience happening? And is this plant communicating with me? Is that real? It's so. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, but it was happening. So the third cup that I drank, she came back and said, okay, she knew why I had drank it because I had already explained to her I was sitting with somebody. And that is when I was invited to sing. And I have a fear of singing. I had a fear of singing that was so big that when I would get next to a microphone, or when I would open my voice to sing, I'd feel like bricks would fall on me and there's no way I could possibly sing. My voice was gone. I was invited to sing in a women's circle because there was a woman there that was actually pregnant and she was sitting to communicate with her child. And this woman is someone that I know, I have a deep admiration for. And so I got up, and I went to sing in this circle. When I opened my eyes, every single being was connected by these rainbow light beams. We were in this grid, and the grid was beyond the people that were sitting there. It spread out and out and out across. And so I went and sat down, and this voice came out of me that I have never heard before, and it was so beautiful. I wasn't singing I was singing for spirit, just like Siri said. And I sang and I sang and I sang. And Siri and I did check in a few times that night, but we definitely had our own experiences. I don't know if you want to touch in on yours, but at that point, I realized that I needed to sing. I realized there was so much work I needed to do on the outside world. I immediately started seeing a mentor. I started taking classes, learning how to do the frame drum and sing. My life changed in that moment.
It was very transformational. My second journey was nothing quite like my first one. Maybe I had expectations, but what I do remember is that a big part of it was just helping to let you have your journey.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't as like deeply profound. My visuals weren't very strong, but I do remember singing in that circle and just how beautiful that was. And, you know, it's like whether you see visuals or, you know, have the experience you're like expecting to have, as long as you're doing it with, you know, the right people in the right setting and in a really beautiful ceremony, it's beautiful. Like sometimes you don't even feel like you need the medicine. And actually what happened was I booked myself because I loved it so much that the third month, so I pretty much did it 3 months in a row.
Yeah.
That third month, I literally had 0 visuals. And in fact, it was kind of dark. And I just remember these like ants and spiders all skewered were coming at me. And I was like, why?
And frustrating.
Yeah,
too.
I was like,
uncomfortable, I remember.
I was like, why am I seeing this? And it really just felt like I was sitting there like meditating. And I guess I had all these expectations again. But interestingly, I stepped out and I looked at the moon and this answer came to me immediately. And the answer was, I was going through a conflict with my mom, I think, and I was taking like full responsibility for everything. And either the moon told me or the medicine or just spirit in general was like, this is not you. This is something your mom needs to work out. And I was like, oh. And it just lifted all this weight. It was like, oh, I don't have to solve the world's problems.
Yeah.
Each person has to go on their own journey of
Yes.
healing. And I'm on that journey now. And so it did, that was the big insight for my third one. And then this other big insight was, now it's time to go integrate some of this work.
Yes.
So I pretty much took the whole summer off. I did go back in September and had one of the most powerful experiences I'd ever had. And it was during that summer, actually, that we discovered Kambo.
Yes.
And actually, Kambo kind of found us.
Well, we discovered Kambo, and we discovered breath work, and we
Yes.
discovered Miranda Barrett.
Yes.
And
it was a very transformational summer or year for us, 2016. It really kind of like opened the door for us to step into a greater power and really work on ourselves as individuals.
Yes.
And, you know, like Kamala just mentioned Miranda, we consider her a mentor, but she's also, you know, she's a mystic, she's psychic, she's intuitive, she's a Reiki master, and she's life-changing. Like even one session with her is potent and life-changing.
Yes.
And so we both started seeing her individually, and it helped so much, you know. So it's kind of like the chicken or the egg. I don't know what it was that started. Like I can't just say like, oh, ayahuasca opened me up, because I'm the one that chose to do that, and it was from hearing other people's stories. So regardless of how it all manifested, it was a very transformational year, and things really started shifting for us.
I don't know that I chose to do ayahuasca. I truly in my heart feel that she called me to show me what I needed to see. And it's wild because I haven't been called since. And I did sit with another facilitator, a very powerful facilitator, and I did a microdose of ayahuasca and turned into a hummingbird. But I had to like ask spirit, I asked the shaman, I asked almost everybody in the damn room. I was like, is this okay? I haven't been called, like, you know. And, you know, for me, I have a very deep sense, and I've told you this, and I've told many shamans this, and they seem to agree with me, that the plants are reaching out to us to help heal us and to allow us to see ourselves in our full truth, our full being, our full light, and help us love ourselves so deeply that we can open our eyes and see the world and love her and love the plants and love all beings. Basically, it is all about love, and it all starts with you. So what ayahuasca really did was made me, again, just like the 5-MeO-DMT, but really fall in love with myself and my journey. And that prompted, but it was also like, you got work to do. Mm-hmm. So that prompted us to really go on a journey together, but so much so our own individual journeys as well.
Absolutely.
And that is right afterwards was when Siri sat with Kambo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was another kind of opening. Kambo kind of found us, a yoga student. Her husband was a Kambo facilitator, and he came up to one of our classes one day and was like, "Yo, have you ever heard of Kambo?" And I was like, "No, but I just sat with Aya and da-da-da." And he was like, just go and look it up. And I was like, okay, so I did. And interestingly, everything that I was looking for physically in my life, from no inflammation to helping your body heal and all this stuff, because I was actually going through a lot of chronic pain in my knee, my lower back. I was having health issues. So Kambo, as soon as I read about it, I was like, oh, I'm doing this. Like, even though like you have to get little burns in your skin, and even though it's technically a frog poison, but
technically it's a secretion.
Yeah, technically it's a secretion because, here's the thing. Anything in the wrong dose can be a poison, from water to coffee to sugar to food to tobacco, anything. But
Kambo is a secretion.
Yeah, it's a secretion, but people often call it a frog poison. And while it does protect itself from animals in the Amazon, it actually has no natural predators. The secretion of Kambo is full of these bioactive peptides that, when are administered through these small little burn holes in the skin, we have receptors in our body to receive this. Yes. So when you're taking it, you're not actually getting sick, even though there is a purgative aspect. But that's what one of the peptides does, is it creates this purging within your body, and you're getting well, and you're like really cleansing your gut, cleansing your intestines. But it works.
Cleansing your mind and your spirit.
Yes, exactly. It works not just on the physical body, it works mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It lifts something, what they call in the jungle is panema, which is considered like darkness, heavy energy, stuck, stagnant energy. Yes. And it really fires up your body, your immune system, but also your life. Like if there's something that you're stuck in your life, it can give you the clarity you're looking for. And so it was only a few months after sitting with Aya that I sat with Kambo, and man, I'm telling you, the first session, it happened so fast. I purged within like 2 minutes. I almost passed through the other side. Like it was so intense. I almost fainted, but I didn't. I stayed with it. And right when I came back, I was like, whoa, I need to purge. And I just purged, like filled my bucket up so much. And you're not purging food, you're purging water, so.
And also, just to clarify, you do not hallucinate at all. This is not a psychedelic at all. It's a purgatory. So you're.
Sometimes people feel spirits and energies, and with closed eyes, they may have a vision.
Or like bright, or a light color.
But in and of itself, Kambo is not a psychedelic or hallucinogen, just the way like ayahuasca definitely is, or DMT or mushrooms or LSD.
Yes.
And when I was done with that session, I felt so alive, and was so interesting because when I was going through chronic pain and illness in my body, I felt like my body was all these different parts, and I was not whole and integrated. And as soon as I did Kambo, I felt whole. I was like, oh, I'm complete. I am a single entity, not all these different parts that were broken, but I actually felt complete. And I was like, this is miraculous. Like the lower back, the chronic back pain I had went away, and it came back a little bit because there was still more that I needed to do, more work. But the shifts that I felt were so amazing that I even told Kamala, I was like, you need to sit with Kambo. Like, it is life-changing.
Yeah. And Kambo is something that, many people, if they're dealing with, if they're dealing with something heavy, be it physical, mental, emotional, whatever if you're dealing with something that's really heavy or a problem that's been with you for a long time, sometimes you have to sit with it multiple times. So it's like, it really all depends on the person, because again, these medicines, I believe, it is my opinion only, that when they enter your body, they're within you. So they stay with you, and layers unfold for months, years, decades. I mean, that's my opinion. So Siri said, you need to sit with Kambo. And I'm really big on having my own experience. So Siri, this one day he was going to work, and I was like, I'm going to go. I think that night called, I was like, I'm going to go sit with Kambo. And wow, what a friggin' experience that was. I did 4 dots right here on my arm. You can no longer see them at all. But I did 4 dots, which is a pretty heavy dose for a beginner. I mean, it's right there. We actually facilitate Kambo now. We love Kambo. It is life-changing. But I did 4 dots, and I was sitting outside. He put them on. I was sitting with about 15 people. I remember him putting them on. I was in the shade in the beginning. By the time I was done, I was in the sun. It wasn't long, but the sun shifted really quickly. People were passing out. It was a crazy experience for me. And I remember I felt the sun on me, and I purged really big, and I felt good, but I was like, I want to go inside and lay down. So I went inside and laid down, and for some reason I kept purging. And I couldn't figure out why, and I started feeling really, really off. And about 2.5 hours later, this woman came in, and she was like, oh my God, you still have the Kambo on you. And I was like, oh God. And so she takes the Kambo off. So I had the Kambo on me for about 2.5 hours. I ended up purging for about 12 hours.
Yeah, that was intense.
Which was hellish. And in the 2 years that we've been serving Kambo, 2 years. Yeah. We've never seen that before. No. I've actually never even heard of that before.
I've only heard of that from one other person.
Yeah, and so I purged, and I remember right before my last purge, I was like, if I feel better tomorrow, I'm going to be pissed because this was hell. And it was really hard for me, too, because I was revisiting some past trauma, because I was also, like Siri was saying, I was really not well in my body. I was not feeding my body properly. I really have had to learn how to feed my body. And so I was eating food that was making me very, very sick. And I couldn't figure out really what it was. It was when we had to switch our diets from being vegan, vegetarian to eating meat, and doing that, doing Kambo, doing the Wim Hof breath, sitting with ayahuasca, doing, it was a full shift in our life. And I actually have not been sick now for 4 years. But I woke up the next morning after doing Kambo. My skin was glowing. I felt great in the morning. And I have never felt so in my body ever in my life. It was unbelievable. I was like, oh my gosh. And the confidence I felt. Like the love, again, it's like all these plants and animal medicines, like they want you to see yourself and love yourself, and the love and gratitude I felt for everything. It was so, so deep. I let go of shame, self-loathing, fear. I mean, I let go of so many things. And and then Siri went and sat again multiple times, and I think it was like right here in the space shift. Yeah. You sat and made the decision that you were going to go to Peru and do the training. And I was like, yes.
Yeah. It was about 8 months after first sitting with Kambo and probably receiving Kambo about 10 times, I think, close to. And we had a 3-day ceremony in here where this couple came down and they visited for the weekend, and they set up Kambo sessions for 3 days in a row. It's kind of, they call it either like a warrior cleanse or something like this. And So we got to like really see how Kambo was held in a ceremonial setting, because the first time both of us did it, it was not a ceremony. It was just somebody serving us Kambo.
Yeah. We wouldn't suggest doing that, by the way. Like, really get to know, like, as we've said, set and setting over and over again, but really make sure that you're sitting with people that are humble, that are integrous, that have a deep reverence for the medicine that they're serving and knowledge, that are CPR certified, that know where hospitals are near them. Like, really make sure that you know what you're getting into, that you have no contraindications. Like, you really need to work on you, research where you're going before you just go and sit with any of these medicines.
Yeah, it's of the utmost importance, because the thing
especially right now.
Yeah, because just like Kamala is saying, it can have an adverse effect if you're not in the right set and setting, if you do too much, if the facilitator brings in their own personal ego and agenda. It can actually have a detrimental effect versus the healing effect that we're actually going for.
Yeah.
So it was that weekend that I sat 3 days in a row, and each day was powerful, profound, and it was at the end of the third day that I literally, it came to me so strong. It was like, you're going to serve this medicine. You, like, when I say me, I meant like us. I just saw us facilitating such powerful and beautiful, nurturing ceremonies. I don't know if you can tell, we're in the space shift here. And what we call this the space shift because this is a space where people and us make shift happen, from yoga classes, Kambo ceremonies, ecstatic dance. But the most important thing this is a safe space.
Yes.
And the space that we hold, and that's an interesting term, but people like to say they hold space.
The container that we create.
Thank you. Is very nurturing and loving. We have no agenda to push medicine on anybody. We have no agenda to have you have an expectation of what's going to happen.
We are not healers. We are facilitators that are witnessing you heal. And it's really the frog and spirit and you.
Yes, you.
Deciding that you're ready to make changes in your life. And that is the perfect combo for Kambo. That just happened.
Nice. So it was only like 2 months after that that I was in Peru. I did a pretty deep intensive in the jungle. I got served Kambo twice from the facilitators. I did fresh Kambo, like straight off the frog, which was so powerful. 1 dot of fresh Kambo is like equal 4 or 5 dots of like reconstituted Kambo, and that's usually how it comes. It comes dried on a stick, and you have to reconstitute it. It's just so much stronger straight off the frog. I had a really deep immersion into Kambo and the jungle, and we did a dieta while we were there, and that's where it's kind of like a jungle vipassana, meaning you're pretty much in silence, you eat very minimal basic food, and every day or every other day we're working with Kambo. Really powerful. And I came back, and Kamala at that time had done a whole Reiki level 1 and level 2 training and attunement, and we started serving Kambo. And
I actually did level 3 right before we started serving, or maybe not. Yeah, we started serving Kambo, but we sat and we thought, okay, we've sat in a lot of ceremonies at this point. Mm-hmm. How can we offer a ceremony, create a sacred ceremony that really caters to the needs of Westerners, make it very comfortable for this rather uncomfortable experience, create a container that is very safe, that they can be vulnerable, that they feel held, seen, supported, and really Spirit just guided us to what we needed to do.
Yeah.
And it fell so perfectly together.
Absolutely.
All the way to the point that our dogs sit in ceremony with us as well.
They don't actually sit with the medicine.
No, they don't sit with the medicine.
They're
but
just
they
with
do
us.
go
Yes.
to each person afterwards and lay with them, like It's really beautiful. And I really feel like that animal energy brings something really special into the ceremony. Like it makes, like people are who have anxiety, when a beautiful little puppy walks right up to them and looks them in the eyes, you know, they're just like, oh, you know, makes you feel good.
Yeah. And so, yeah, you know, really, we're all students on this path. I would not consider myself an expert in almost anything, yet I'm very passionate about many things. And, you know, so we're constantly learning, but the most important thing for us is just to be in integrity, to listen to our intuition as well as to listen to Great Spirit, never to force anything upon anyone that's not ready for it. And really just, you know, walk in our truth and really, you know, speak words from our heart and
be grateful.
Yeah, be grateful. That's
so grateful.
Yeah. And so, you know, I feel like there's a lot more that we really could talk about, but I know we've been going on for a long time. I know I wanted to get into microdosing and the powerful benefits of that, but, you know, do some research. Maybe we'll do a whole nother podcast just on microdosing.
We could do a whole podcast just on that.
But one thing I do want to let you guys know is that we are here as a resource for you guys. So if you have any questions, if you are curious or, you know, just need a safe space to come and to be heard, there's actually psychedelic integration circles here, which are a great place, whether you've worked with psychedelics or not, or you're just curious. It's a space where you can come. There's no discussion about how to get psychedelics, where to get psychedelics, who to do the circles with. We actually leave that all at the door, and we just come and talk about our own personal experiences. So it's really beautiful. They're twice a week, twice a month here, and there's probably one in your area. Just look up psychedelic integration. They're popping up all over, and you know, it's an important time. It's a really exciting time because these plants, and I call them plants because many of them are plant derived, are really helping people heal. They're helping people get off pharmaceuticals. They're helping people release trauma in their lives. They're
in their bodies.
Yeah, PTSD in veterans or any type of PTSD. It's really miraculous to see
addictions, letting go of addictions. One thing I just like to say is that if you're feeling called to a ceremony and you have resistance towards that, come to one of our yoga classes. Come to our women's circle. My dear friend Anna Reichenbach and I are started doing a women's circle once a month. Our next one is September 8th, and it's right here, Sunday, September 8th from 3 to 7. Our Yoga Galactica classes are a ceremony of self. Kambo is a beautiful way to open the door towards sitting with ayahuasca, and it gives you that strength and power to make you feel like, yes, you know, I am ready, I am something, I am in my power, and you know, I'm finding myself for the first time ever. We have ecstatic dance in here on the full moons, and that's like full on dance therapy surrounded by soul community, soul tribe, and like everything that we do is steeped in ceremony, in community, in love, in integrity, and we do it with so much joy and so much passion. And we invite you to come and join us for any of those. You can check us out at yogagalactica.com. You can check us out at comboshift.com. You know, come meet us.
Yeah,
Let's be friends.
Yeah, we love talking about these types of things, and you know, it's helped our lives so much, and we know it can potentially help and benefit like the greater good. And so we are just super fortunate. We're blessed. We're here for you. We love you guys. A few things, you know, if you ever have any questions, comments, have any topics about podcast stuff that you want to hear,
let us know.
Yeah, send us a message. Find us on our website. Find us on Facebook, Yoga Galactica.
If there's someone you think we should have on our podcast, let us know, because we're definitely going to start having guests on very soon.
Yeah.
We've just been doing these duo casts to like kind of just let you know who we are and give you our backstory, because we have been through a lot in our lives, and we are just like you in so many ways. And we want to let you know that you can change your life. there is no hurdle that you cannot make it over as long as you just put your heart and soul into it and try. Actually, a hurdle would be really hard for me, so I'll retract that statement. But we see you. We love you. Even though we can't see you from right here, I hope you see us and you see that we love you, that we are just like you, and we just really know that when you're ready, you can make so many powerful shifts in your life, and you can change your life at any point. That's one of the joys of being human, you know?
Yeah.
So
constantly evolving.
Constantly evolving. If you're seeking a mentor or a guide, oh my gosh, check out MirandaJBarrett.com. She is amazing, life-changing.
Pretty much our entire community goes to see her. Like we've probably sent at least 50, 70, 80, probably like 80.
Yes, and that's Miranda J. Barrett, BARRETT.com. Also Reiki Master. So we have a lot of resources too that we'd love to share. So reach out.
Yeah.
Be in touch. Be our friends. We'd love to see you.
We
pups would love
guys.
to see you. And
Yeah, it's Thursday night, so we're having our weekly yoga class. They're every Tuesday and Thursday night. Like Kamala said, we have the full moon monthly ecstatic dance. Pretty much every Saturday, we're offering Kambo ceremonies right here in the Space Shift. We have one this Saturday.
This one's full, though.
Yes, this one is full at this point. But they're going to just continue to go because there's a lot of people that need these shifts. So with all of that being said, we love you guys. Have an amazing day. We hope you got some little nuggets out of this. It was fun for us. Hopefully it was a good listen for you. And we love you.
We love you. Have a good one. Peace.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this transmission. As always, it's an honor and pleasure to share with you all that we have learned. If you feel inspired, please share this with your friends, family, and on your social media platform. We truly believe that we can collectively make a positive change here in the world and raise our vibration to that of love, peace, and harmony. All of our podcasts are free, and if you'd like to make a contribution, you can do so on our website under the donation tab. That's yogagalactica.com. Subscribe, like, share, and join us for a class soon. Have a great day.